Nova is my name. I'm 37 now. I've got two little boys, Zion and Cairo, 9 and 6. They're at school at the moment. I was very unwell a few years ago, and that's how that's how usually this story goes, right? So going back probably almost 2 decades, too long, I was actually training to what my desire was to actually become a doctor, a surgeon. And so I went through biomedical science at university. I did that degree. My major was in human physiology. And that's when my mum got sick. So she went through all the cancer treatments. I was on that side of the fence back then, the mainstream fence, and I tried to help as best I could on that side. But I started to see issues within the system. So I started to see, even from a mainstream aspect, where I thought a doctor was everything, and their medications and their treatments were the only best thing available, and everything else was secondary. So natural treatments were great, but it was secondary. It was like in addition to kind of thing. So I tried my best to argue with doctors, with surgeons, to provide scientific research, because that's what I was trained to do as a scientist, to research things. And when we were told that there was nothing for her to do, that they couldn't do this surgery or they couldn't do that, or, they'd given up on her, I just kept giving them stuff. Be like, no, well, there's this, in that place. And they were horrendous. Most of them were like a kick in the face. And when I felt that and I saw my mum cry, probably for the first time in my life, because of the way that they behaved in front of her, I said, I can't be a part of this. And so that's when I turned around and I said, well, I still thought they were the only option, really. If you needed to go there, you had to go there. But I didn't want to be a part of that because of how that whole system felt. It felt like a conveyor belt. It felt like there was no love. There was no, it wasn't a caring, let's try and save you environment. You really were a number. That's how it felt, and I understood as well. So I turned around and I said, well, what am I going to do? My mum passed away and, didn't know what to do. I was a bit lost. I got married and I did aviation instead, because as a true Capricorn, we just have to do all the hardest stuff that we can find. So, that's the hardest thing we can do, and that's the coolest, and that's the funnest. That's what we're going to do. Clearly. So I did that as well at university, which is also science-based. It's also research-based. I finished that. I did a few hours flying as well, flight training. And then, as life has it, I had to make a decision whether I was going to literally probably leave my husband at the time to go and accept flight training under one of the big airlines, or stay in Brisbane and have babies. So that was calling me, and that's what I did. So I had my 2 sons. I, left university and worked behind for a period, basically was a mama, which is what I wanted to be, and stayed at home. And over the years, I had my 2 boys, I was active, this and that. I've always been very fit and active, but I actually was accumulating a lot of toxicity on every level. And when, as we say, and you will pardon my language, when shit hits the fan, when you just like accumulate and it hits the fan, you literally, that's when it just hits you in the face and you're like, whoa, what happened to me? So the ex-gymnast who was always fit, always quote unquote healthy, who had no health issues except for the, you know, the random stuff that everyone apparently gets, you know, that's apparently normal. You know, I had no issues. And what I realized is that it really snuck up on me, you know, especially, and in particular, I know that, as you know, those of you who are mothers can relate, we are so busy and so attentive and, you know, nurturing and so on of others, and wanting to take care of others and make sure everyone's okay, and you know, putting everything into your kids, that you not only, I guess, to a certain extent dismiss yourself, which you do, you know, you kind of start losing yourself if you're not careful, but you become, your symptoms become normalized within you. They become a part of you. You think that they are what everyone goes through as a mother. So you start getting tired all the time, you know, and pains and aches, and you know, not feeling like you don't want to do anything. And, you know, it's not just the physical symptoms, it's the mental and emotional that are associated, you know, they're all the same part of our vessel. Every level is just part of our vessel. So no matter if it's an emotional or a mental or a physical symptom, it's all part of the one. So they sneak up on us, right? And then it's until we get hit literally and go, whoa, what has happened? So for me, that was when I literally became inflamed. For the first time in my whole life, I used to say to my best friend, sorry if you can hear that outside the motorbike. Yeah, that's loud. You know, I used to say to my friend, my best friend, I was like, Jaya, I don't know what's going on. I look like I've swallowed a sheep. I look like I've swallowed a sheep, and I don't eat meat. Like I like, you know, I was already vegetarian. I was already vegan at that point, and pretty healthy. And I'd already started studying all of this, but I hadn't fully applied any of it, really, if you know what I mean. You kind of dibble dabble and you start changing things, and that's all good. That's all great. I started, you know, trying to do 3-day fasts, 7-day fasts, but then I'd go back to all the cooked foods and processed, and, you know, like all of those little things. I'd just try everything. And, you know, no matter what I did, I would eat less and better, knowing what I knew, you know, calories in, calories out, even with the healthy aspect, you know, and I exercised more. So I went to, I think I was doing hot yoga 3 to 4 times a week. And that was like 1.5 hour sessions, you know, and eating less, and, you know, moving and drinking lots of juice and this and that. And instead of losing that inflammation, it was actually getting worse. Every time I went and did hot yoga, I would walk in already inflamed, but when I walked out, I would walk out in more pain everywhere. I'd get the worst cramps, the worst like shooting pains of my arms and my legs. Sometimes like I'd cramp my feet and I'd have to stop and move, and, you know, I'd do all things. And what I would see is I would be doing down dogs, and I'd watch my fingers swell up. And I was like, what is going on? You know, I'd walk out like a balloon, complete balloon. And yeah, what I realized then is, well, number one, I had implants in, and I knew they had to come out. So I had those toxic bags that I put in when I was 21, I think, you know, back in the mainstream days where everything was safe and effective. And, you know, when I started getting clued in, thanks to, you know, vaccines and so on, I started getting clued in through that, everything else. right? And trying to help my son and detox and so on. And so I realized, well, these ticking time bombs need to come out as soon as I don't feel well, because I thought I felt well. I didn't, but it didn't hit the fan yet. So when it hit the fan, that's when I was like, well, the first thing I need to do is get rid of these. So I did. And my little one was still breastfeeding at the time. So I actually breastfed him, went to the hospital, got them out, came back home, and within a few hours breastfed again. That's the stuff that I was doing. I fasted for 9 days at that point as well. So, you know, before, during, and after that surgery and so on. And yeah, it was hell, to be honest. Like that's why I put it off, taking them out, because I didn't want to go through that system. And it reiterated again just how much I detest going through that system. Yeah.
Did you notice a difference once you had them removed, Nova? Like, could you feel like a shift or anything? Or
I did. Yeah. No, that's a good question. I did pretty, like, instantly. There was a lot of inflammation that left.
Yeah.
But there was some things that I don't know what happened in the surgery itself. For example, I think that they may have left me on my side for too long, because one of the sides wouldn't close. For 3 months, I had an open wound. So under the breast, where they cut open, I had an open wound for, 3 months. I'm not joking, 3 months. He tried to sew it back together a couple of times, and I even traveled and breastfed the whole way through with an open wound under the breast. It's ridiculous. So I didn't feel the amazing, that was it. I thought it was going to be it. And so even once it closed and it healed on the outside, there's a lot of damage internally, right? Not just from the years of that, but from the actual surgery and, trauma itself. So there's a lot there. What was I going with that? So, so I realized that wasn't enough. It's not just that I had implants in. So it's not just that you might have a root canal. It's not just that you might have a deficiency in this that you have to address. When shit hits the fan in your body and you become in full body pain and inflammation, or you have, some quote unquote disease that they've, named, there's not just the one thing. There's not just the one factor. You have a full systemic situation that needs to be addressed. And that's what I realized. It's like, well, that was great. That was the step one. And so after that, yes, I felt slightly better, but I still was inflamed. I was in a lot of pain. So pains, when I say pains, I had pains in my joints. So it felt like I had pieces of glass in my feet and my hands. So jumping off a chair onto the floor would like make me cringe, things like that. So that was still all present after the surgery, right? Because it's a systemic issue now. And that's when I realized, okay, I need to actually walk my talk now. So I wasn't really talking about it back then, but I was studying all of this stuff and I need to actually do it. And so I did. So I actually said, I'm going to fast. Initially, I think I said 60 days and I made it to 40. This is what, 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago? I don't know. It's been like 4 years probably. And so I did my first 40-day juice fast. And with that, I did mainly orange juice and watermelon juice, because I still had to feed everyone, do everything at home. I had my 2 crazy boys, which were tiny. I was still breastfeeding, had a lot going on. And I just had to make it as easy as possible. I didn't really do any herbs, which would have helped massively. but I did do a bit of the Quenda, which is the mucoid remover. And so I saw a lot of junk come out of me. And that, I'm so excited for you guys to actually see how many I'm not joking, kilograms, pounds, whatever, of waste, of nasty, smelling, nasty looking, alien-like ropes, like thick ropes of gunk. And it's been there for like quite a few decades. It's not your normal regular poo. It's not. So I had some of that come out, and the more I did that, obviously, within 9 days, actually, from just juice, this was without the mucoid remover, just on juices, 9 days in, I felt a massive relief. When I had a lot of pain at that point because I wasn't doing any herbs, no enemas at that point. I hadn't done any for 9 days, and I hadn't done any of the mucoid remover or anything. I just did the juice and continued life as it was. And so pain hit me in the gut. And so I had an obstruction there that wasn't coming out, and so for a few hours until, my husband at the time relieved himself from work and took care of the kids for a moment, I was able to actually do some enemas. And I did some enemas, got rid of some nasty stuff. And the next day is the first day in a long time where I stood up from my bedside. I woke up, I stood up, and I didn't have pain in my feet. It was like, whoa, like I couldn't even remember what that felt like. When you're expecting your pain because it's always there, it's just normal. And so it's like when you cringe, when I was cringing, because if you jump off a chair or a table, I'm like, oh, that's going to be painful. It's always been painful for the last few years. Here Amina is coming in. So for the first time in a long time, there was no pain. Like there was maybe a tiny fraction, of like soreness or something, but nothing like it was. So I kept going. I was so happy. These are those I guess those landmarks in a way, those small goals, the short-term goals that you look forward to, you feel, you see, and you're like, that is why I'm doing this. This is why. This is, this is how amazing my vessel is. I just have to give it the chance. Give it the chance, open the space for it to actually breathe, hydrate, clear, heal, regenerate, and upgrade. So I upgraded. I upgraded myself on every level. And that was just 40 days. That was literally just the beginning for me. After that, I went back into semi-old ways, way better, but, I still ate, a lot of cooked food and here and that, but I was now aware. And so since then, I've done different fasts, 30 days here, 30 days there, herbs, et cetera, et cetera. And it's always been better and easier every time. It's not like you can undo, a massive, long detox program of any kind, right? You can't undo the work that you've already done. You'd have to go quite a while on the other side again. How long did it take you to get to this point with all of the symptoms that you have listed, right? It took you quite a while to gather those up. Our body is miraculous. All it wants to ever do is heal and regenerate. It never, ever will do anything to compromise itself. It does not attack itself, like in the autoimmune talk. It does not go rampant. It does not do anything like that, like in the cancer talk. It doesn't do any of that. It is just a misunderstanding of what is actually happening within. And those are the concepts, those are the knowings. I already know that you already know this. It's deeply inside you. It is within your DNA already. But we forget. We are programmed with all of this rubbish that takes away our power, right? Over time, we're indoctrinated by well-meaning people. We are the well-meaning people. But when we don't know and we talk and we push, you know, the knowledge that we don't understand, then everyone is lost. And that is where we're at in society right now. And all I would like to do, if you take anything away from these 12 weeks and you didn't do anything else, is to completely flip your perception. Completely unplug from the matrix programs, those ones that have been running in the background, running us into the ground, quite literally.